Hello, this is Greg from HPSI and Eurocompulsion. I want to very quickly go over the wastegate adjustment on the Fiat 1.4 Multi-Air Turbo. This particular car is a 500L, but it's exactly the same for the Abarth 500 Turbo, Alfa Giulietta Sportiva, Dart 1.4, every other car at this point, which is up to 2015, that uses this engine. Some of these cars left the factory with a misadjusted wastegate actuator rod here. There's a nut in there, you can see it, you can back it off and loosen it up. You can also see the factory put a brown glob on there so they'll know if anybody's tampered with it. So you don't want to change that unless you really know what you're doing. So let's go over that next. There's a big misconception out there that adjusting the spring tension on the rod here will effectively change boost or change the boost curve on these engines. It really won't. 20 or 25 years ago that absolutely would have been true, but today it'll just cause a short-term change in boost, and medium to long-term it'll cause problems, unless of course your car was misadjusted at the factory, which sometimes is the case. Also, it's possible you've misadjusted it yourself, or, which I've certainly made mistakes, or maybe somebody else misadjusted it. You can look in here and see the nut. There should be about 13 millimeters worth of threads from the nut to the end of the threaded portion here. There's also a brown glob on there the factory put on so they'll know if anybody's tampered with this thing. So take a look. It should be nominally 13 millimeters. Of course, that's not a really great check. That's just a sort of ballpark check. To really check this thing, you're going to have to do it with air pressure. The actuator is controlled by air pressure. It uses turbo boost that's then further regulated by the boost solenoid, which is down here on the side of the motor. You can see the yellow hose going to it. And that regulates how much boost pressure is actually allowed to reach this thing. So the way it tested is with boost pressure. With 6 pounds of boost put into the thing via an air compressor, I hook an air compressor to this hose, that rod should just move a little bit. With 9 or 10 pounds, it should move more, and with about 15 pounds of boost, it should move about to the stop, with total travel of about 13 millimeters, give or take a little bit. The key is, it has to be able to move at least a little bit with 6 pounds of boost. If it doesn't, it's going to cause problems, and you don't want it to move much lower than that either. So the way we're going to do that is, we set up our air compressor. The gauge on the compressor itself, like most compressors, isn't that accurate in these lower levels, so I use the air compressor to pressurize a hose that goes to a tire gauge, and I get it set to where I've got about 6 psi in the air compressor tank. I just do that by turning the compressor on and off until I see what I want, because the compressor's regulator ain't that great. Then, now knowing that I have 6 psi in the tank, I connect the air compressor outlet to the hose inlet and check for movement, and I should see just a tiny bit. I'm going to try and do that next here, although it's going to be tricky filming all this by myself. Okay, I have all this rigged up so I can film with one hand and do the check with the other. The air compressor is going to put air, I probably shouldn't call it boost since it's just air pressure from the air compressor, it's not actually boost from the turbo, but in any case, simulates boost. I'm putting 6 psi of air pressure into the wastegate actuator, and when I do, you will see the rod will move just a little bit. So here we go. That's it. That's about what you should see with 6. I'm doing it multiple times here. That's about what you should see with 6, maybe 7 pounds of air pressure. Of course, every time I clicked that, the pressure went down slightly, so you may have seen it move slightly less. But I started with about 7. 6 to 7 pounds of air pressure, you should see that rod move just a little bit. More pressure, it should move move more. With 4 psi, it shouldn't move at all. So that's about all. Now, that does not mean that the wastegate is going to start to open as soon as the turbo is putting out 6 psi. That's not the way it works, because as you guys probably know, the boost solenoid prevents air pressure from actually reaching the wastegate actuator. The wastegate actuator only controls how easily it moves when the ECU, via the solenoid, decides to allow boost pressure to reach it. So again, to recap, nominally 13 millimeters, but that's really not that meaningful. You have to accurately measure air pressure delivered to the solenoid. It should just start to move at 6 psi. It should move pretty darn noticeably at 10 psi, and about fully open, which will be a nominally 13 millimeters depending on how it's adjusted, at about 15 psi. So I hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions, I'm Greg. I'm on Eurocompulsion's site, HPSI. I post on the forums, Fiat Tech, and dodgedart.org quite a bit in the Eurocompulsion section. Hope this helps you guys. Thanks. Bye.